Okay. Oh, we're live. We're live. Well, welcome, Renee.
Thanks for having me, Mike. Cheers.
Wonderful, wonderful. What have you got there? I'm having a whiskey, of course. What are you having?
I've got a red wine tonight. I thought I'd try and match the outfit.
Very nice, very nice.
And the flower.
Because you're from Stratford, if I recall.
Yep, over in Gippsland in Victoria. Yeah. About as far away from Perth as I can get.
Nice, yeah. But is that,
Not that I have a problem with Perth. I love Perth.
But is that wine a Victorian wine or?
I honestly didn't read the bottle. I just cracked it and poured it.
Yeah.
Hubby bought it home from when he come home from work today. He comes in, he goes, "I've got a bottle of wine." I'm like, perfect, because I was going to be drinking juice. I'd forgot to go to the shops on the way home from work. So I'm very pleased I have a wine.
Well, let's start off with that. Where are you working at the moment? We know you're an author and you're in many genres.
I'm an author.
So
Yes.
where are you actually working? You know, because you do have like a day job.
Yeah, I do have a day job. It's my favourite day job. I'm really enjoying it there at the moment. I work at the Sailing District Specialist School. So I work at a school with children with disabilities. And it's fabulous. I love it. It brings together all the things that I've enjoyed out of work. I've worked in disability. I've worked as a teacher's aide in a mainstream school now. So I've brought it all together and I'm working as a teacher's aide in a school with children with disabilities. So
what sort of disability are we talking about here?
All ranges of things, but generally it will involve a learning disability. So there may be some physical disabilities as well and things like that. But it comes down to children with strong learning disabilities that wouldn't cope in a mainstream school. So yeah, there's a range of different kids and range of abilities there. A range of behaviours to deal with too sometimes.
Of course, yeah.
Keeps me on my toes. But it's lots of fun. It's very rewarding as well. So
I believe so. Yeah. It is very, very rewarding.
Yeah. And also exhausting. Sometimes it's nice to come home to a glass of wine. By Friday night, I'm like, oh.
Yeah, you need a break. I guess the parents also need a break of those children as well.
Oh, well, I need a break from my kids. We all need some time out. Being full-time with anybody it gets tough. That's what I found through all the lockdowns through COVID last year. That really sapped away my enthusiasm for writing and my motivation because I wasn't leaving the house. I was surrounded by the same things and the same people all the time. I was fully committed to schooling my children and then also parenting them. So it became exhausting after a while, just not having those new experiences and new people, different people around you and that sort of thing. So now that things are getting back to normal, I'm starting to get the mojo back, feeling more motivated to write again.
So tell the people what genres are you writing?
The first books I started writing like chick lit, romantic comedy, that kind of stuff, and some sweet romance. So I've started more with the romance kind of things. I've done some flash fiction collections. Which was just lots of fun, challenges and writing on different themes and collecting the stories together. Then I went from there I started narrating my own audiobooks because I really wanted to have my books in audio. So then I've gone into non-fiction about how to narrate audiobooks because I had so many people ask me, how do you do that? That I thought I'll just sit down and write a blog post and then I can send people to the blog post. And the blog post turned into 10,000 words and I went, that's too much for a blog post. I'll make it a book. So there's a book out there called Narrated by the Author. Tells you how to narrate a book if you're an author.
Yeah, so when did you first start writing?
That's the narrated one. So I first started writing.
Slow down a bit. Slow down, just put it a bit into the screen.
Oh, you want to see that one again? So that's the one.
There we go.
About how to narrate an audiobook.
Okay.
So that's available in ebook, paperback, and audiobook at all the places you like to get books from.
Okay, cool.
It's out there everywhere.
Yeah. So at what age did you actually start writing?
I started writing in 2015. So not that long ago. Now that I think about it, I would tinker about with like rhyming poems and things back when I was a teenager, but never really did anything with them. It was just, I don't know, just tinkering around for a bit of fun, but I didn't see it as being creative. I never actually thought I was creative. I never thought I was going to be a writer. I always loved English literature. I loved reading, but I never imagined I could be a writer. It wasn't something I had a drive for. I thought that I could do. I thought authors were these like magical people that lived on a mountain and did this magical thing called making a book, and that wasn't me. That was over there, something else. So it wasn't till I moved to Darwin. The trigger was when I moved to Darwin with my husband, when he joined the military, and I moved to Darwin, and it was a whole lifestyle change. We've gone from just normal civilian life to all of a sudden we're in the military. We have to move where we're told. We've got to go to a different town, and it's a different way of life. And I wanted to find out more about that before we left. So I went looking for books because I've always been a big reader. So I was looking for fiction set in Darwin or fiction just involving military life or family in the military, just to get a bit of a feel for the world before I sort of immersed. I had to go and live in there. And I couldn't find any. I couldn't find anything like that. So I had to just kind of go to Darwin and discover this world on my own. And when I got there, I was looking for book clubs to link in with, but with two little toddlers, it's really hard to get out of the house and go anywhere of an evening when your husband's away in the military, off on a mission somewhere. So I turned to Goodreads and joined an online book club. And through that started book blogging. I got really into the book blogging world and book reviewing. And through that, I met quite a few authors who were newly published in 2014, 2015. There was quite a few people I connected with online, and I discovered that they're people. I hadn't really realized that authors were they're people. They're regular people who, some of them have other jobs, and they're down to earth, and you can talk to them. And through that, I just kind of
and they have real day-to-day problems. They're raising children.
They've got all these things going on too. They're living a normal life. And so between that realization and reading it was actually a blog written by Natasha Lester, who's another author from Western Australia. And she wrote something about all you need to be able to write a book. You don't need to know everything to write a book. All you need is some time and one idea. And I thought to myself, well, I've got 3 ideas. I want to read a book about Darwin, and I want to read a book about military life. And I also want to read a book about swing dancing, because I love swing dancing, and that's how I met my husband. And I thought, and I've got some time because my husband's going on another course. Oh, I do everything.
What is swing dancing?
Swing dancing. It's like the style of dancing that came before rock and roll. So it's partner dancing. There's actually a couple of big swing dancing groups over in Perth, if you want to check it out. So yeah, a couple of dancing, partner dancing, leading and following, and
it's like goes back to the
1940s. More 1940s style. Yeah, 1950s was where it went more rock and roll. The 1940s is more the big band swing music and that style of dancing. So I started doing that back when I was 20.
Well, like in New York, like the Harlem area and those sort of things in those communities. That
sort of era. Harlem was really big with the
and you had to have the attire. You had to have the attire, you know?
Yeah, well, you got to get the look. Yeah. But yeah, it was something I came across back in my early 20s back in Melbourne, and just fell in love with the style of dancing. So I've kept doing that when I moved around. There's not much around here though, so I haven't danced for a while. But I'll still drag the kids out in the kitchen and get my hubby up in front of the telly every now and then, turn the telly off, have a dance with me. So yeah, they're all different interests that I had. And then I had some time when my hubby went away. So I thought, well, maybe I can write a story that's got swing dancing and military stuff that's set in Darwin. And so that's what I set out to do. That was my first novel. Let's see. This one here. Don't Mean a Thing.
So say again? Oh, don't mean a thing.
Don't mean a thing. It don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. So the series is called Got That Swing.
That's the song. I forget you sang that song. Don't mean a thing if you don't have that swing.
Do. There's a few different versions out there. So all the books in this series have got swing songs as titles.
Okay.
So I've got a few there.
But
that's the first novel.
Yeah.
And so the heroine in this one is in the Air Force, and the couple meet through swing dancing. So that's where the first idea came from. I've got a prequel short story that's free everywhere called Baby, It's Cold Outside.
Oh, there was another song. Yeah,
there's another song. I've got an in-between story called Cheek to Cheek.
Another song, yeah.
Another song. Then I've got Taint What You Do. It's the Way That You Do It. Another song title.
But I noticed,
and Jeepers Creepers.
But I noticed all of those covers, you have the clothes of the era.
I do, yeah. I designed all those covers. So I found the stock. Yeah. So I did all those. I found the stock images through Deposit Photos, and then layered it all together and arranged it and chose the font and put it all together. So I'm quite happy with those. I've got one more I'm planning to write there that I haven't quite got to yet, but I'll come back around to that because I've done with the big ones. Yeah.
What happened in 2016?
So 2016, that was when I published my first book. Yeah.
Well,
I went to Darwin. I went to Darwin in 2012, so it took me a few years of living up there before I actually started writing. So it was 2014, I started a book blog. 2015, I had some book blogger friends and author friends say, you should write a book too. And then it was late 2015, I thought, yeah, maybe I could. And so it took about a year to write the first one. And then I published with a small publisher called Kindred Ink Press. And so she designed the first cover, which I really liked. So I redesigned something in a very similar manner using similar elements because I really liked the style, and then used that to base the other covers. And then it was a couple of years later, I actually asked for my rights back and then republished it all myself. Because I've discovered through the publishing process, I'm a bit of a control freak and I like to do everything myself and be in control of it all the time rather than hand things over to a publisher. Some people, their big dream is to have a publishing deal and see their book on a shelf in a bookshop. My big dream with publishing was to have an audiobook. I wanted to listen to my book. So I found that I was able to achieve that on my own easier than with a publisher. So I took all my rights back from those books and then set out to learn how to narrate. And then I've published all my audiobooks as well.
But just come back to the swing thing for a minute. Did your parents introduce you to the swing stuff? Because it's, as you say, goes back to the point. I mean, it's very cool. Yeah. I'm sure we're resurgence of it, but it's very cool music, huh?
Yeah. There was a bit of a resurgence in the late 1990s, mid to late 1990s. It was the neo swing era, and that's when we had a few new bands come out doing swing style songs, but with a bit more of a modern twist to them. And that's when I got into it. It was just a friend of a friend. I was sitting around having a conversation, and I heard them talking about going to this dance class. And one of the girls lived near me and didn't have a car, and she wasn't sure how she'd get there. And I'm like, well, I'm not doing anything on Sunday afternoon, so I'll take you and I'll have a look when I get there. I didn't know anything about it. Went to this one class and fell in love with the dancing.
It's quite a thing that all of your...
that whole series is all based around swing dancing. It's all based around an actual real group of swing dancers in Darwin. It's set in Darwin in a real setting at real places around a group called Swing Dance NT, which is a real group of people, but all the people in my stories are made up people. None of it's actually based on real people. Like the people are all made up, but the setting and that sort of stuff is all based on real things. So if you're in Darwin and you want to go swing dancing, you can go to the Nightcliff jetty, as it's mentioned in one of the books, on a Sunday afternoon, and they'll be there dancing away on the side of the footpath.
Renee, when you actually get time, because you also do editing, because you did editing in one of my books, you know?
Yeah. So that's one of my author services I do on the side. I call it a paid beta read. So I don't feel like I can call myself an editor, but I do like I'll give quite a bit of input with it all and suggestions and feedback on the way through. Yeah.
And I will put it out there in one of my books. Okay.
Yep.
You gave me a lecture.
I did.
Gave me a lecture, right?
I have strong opinions, but I always say, take it with a pinch of salt. Like, this is my opinion. This is what I think. This is how I'm feeling as I read things through, and read it through, think about it, and see what resonates with you. If something I said makes you go, nah, she's
no. So can I tell you the story?
crazy, then that's my opinion. But if some things you go, yeah, actually, I'll go back and think about that again. Then it just helps you look at something from a different point.
Allow me to recite the incident, right? So in my story, I think I'm probably about 80% of the way through the 100,000 odd words.
Yeah.
My protagonist, who's a bit of a James Bond noir sort of crime thriller character, he has sex with 2 different women in 24 hours. And it's a long story.
I'm like,
exactly. And I got a lecture about physical love, love from the heart, love, all the different
love.
Yeah, exactly. So I showed my wife.
It depends on your audience, though. It depends on your audience and who it's going to appeal to and that sort of thing. But it makes me go, oh! So that's the thing you want to know, though.
Said, my wife is one of my also guy killer, and she said, no, Renee's right. But I haven't done that again, You wait till the next day. You wait till the next day.
Well, it's first impressions, and you want a character that everyone's not going to turn against. So you've got to think about things. If it's somebody's getting a bit upset and you don't want them to be a bit upset, you might just have to rethink it and tone something down somewhere, or just have a little bit more connection. Yeah.
No, it was good advice. It actually was very good advice. It was good advice. But may I ask you,
thank you.
Where do you write? Where do you? I see you got the cats behind you on the wall there.
I've got the cats. That's my audio narration booth covered in a cloth, because the cat actually scratches. What's underneath is like a packing blanket, and it's full of holes and scratches because the cat tries to climb up it. So I just try to cover it with something so it looks a bit nicer. It depends on what's going on in my life. When being in the military, I've moved around a fair bit, and so my jobs have changed, and the timing of where I am and what I've got time available has changed. And so I have written in all kinds of different settings and environments. I've been known to sit in the car waiting for the kids at school pickup with my laptop and write when I was picking them up from school. I would sometimes,
I think it's important that you tell, because a lot of people actually be in the same space where you are. Like, can I do this? I got kids to pick up, I got homework to attend to. I got dinner to prepare, Is that how do I do this? I think it's important that you actually tell people how you did it, particularly when as your husband was in the military.
Yeah. Well, when I first started, I did what they call NaNoWriMo, which is National Novel Writing Month. It's an online writing challenge. So there's a few people have done that sort of thing, and you pretty much challenged to try to write 50,000 words in 1 month. And I went, I'm not going to get 50,000 words in 1 month, but if I have a go, I might get 20,000. And I did. I got 20,000 words in my first first attempt at that. And that's just was after the kids had gone to bed of an evening, I'd sit down and I'd write till about midnight. I'd have a couple of hours of an evening when hubby was away on a course or something, and I had some time to myself, because I'd be so busy during the day with 2 toddlers. I didn't have the time then. But I'd set myself time of an evening, and that's when I was writing. Then when I moved away from Darwin, the kids were a bit older, and I picked up a job during different hours of work during the day, and I was doing in-home support with aged care stuff. So I'd have time between clients sometimes, where I'd have to drive, and I'd sit in the car down the road from someone's house, and I'd write for 20 minutes before I had to go up and start the next shift. I'd just try to find untapped time where I would have just been scrolling Facebook otherwise and using up all my data. So I'd sit down and I'd have a go. I'd write. I remember another shift I had to take a lady to a physiotherapy appointment and then wait for her and then take her home again. So I sat out in the gardens at the little private hospital at a little table, and I wrote away for half an hour while she's at her appointment. So I've sort of crammed it into little bits and pieces. I'm not the sort of person who would like to take a whole day and shut everybody away and lock myself in a room and write for a day. I couldn't do it. I know other people who can binge write, and they need to block off a week or block off a day, and they'd write and write and write and write and write and write, and it all pours out and they're done. I find I need to do little and often.
So you can do little and often.
Little and often works for me. Yeah. Some people would aim to write 1,000 words a day or 2,000 words a day, and that'll get you through a book quite well. But I find if I set a goal like that, I find it overwhelming, and I'm more likely to just not start. Or I would start and I'd get 500 words and I'd run out of steam, and then I'd feel like a failure, and that would make me not want to start again. So I find
that they never tell aspiring writers is that if you look at all the big guns like James Patterson, Stephen King, all of these people, is that they have to do the same thing that we do. They actually write one word at a time, just like we do.
Yeah.
And
they'll have different strategies. Like they'll do it a different way. Some of them might have different ways that they do it and write different numbers of words per day. But you've got to find something that's sustainable. Like I did the NaNoWriMo. I managed to write 1,000 words a day for a month, or 2,000 words a day for a month. But that's not sustainable. I couldn't keep doing that. I was like, oh, I need a break now. Whereas I found when I was writing the most consistently and the most productively, I set myself a goal of 100 words a day, because that's tiny. And that's easy. You can do that in a few sentences. That's a good idea, and I would feel like, oh, I can do that. That's something I can succeed at. And so I'd sit down and I'd do my 100 words. And if I was having a bad day, I'd go, I'm done. But it would be enough to keep me in touch with the story and remember where I was up to and remember what my plans were. So it would be easy to keep going the next day. And then the next day I might be in a better frame of mind and I might do 1,000 words. But if I didn't, I wouldn't feel like a failure. And it's that feeling of success that would keep me going.
I've read about, I forget which writer it was, who also wrote, he also set himself like what we would think of as a low hurdle. Didn't have a hurdle up here, like didn't set himself up to fail. He made it down here. So we've done 100 words. I can roll and rock with this. I can keep going.
And often it's enough to get you back in the story and get you back into flow, and you'll keep going. But you've been able to tick that box of I'm a winner today, and you're feeling good about yourself. Instead of sitting there beating yourself up because you haven't done enough work today and I'm behind. And that some people thrive on the competition and they thrive on that challenge to do more and do more. But that doesn't work for me. That's the opposite. So you need to know a bit about your own personality and your own motivation.
I think we've always all done this thing about you got to do 1,000, 2,000 words a day.
Yeah.
I read somewhere, James Joyce, the guy who wrote Ulysses. Someone asked him one day, he was in Dublin, that's where he lived, and they said to him, how many words did you write today? And he said 7 words. 7 words. And he says 7 words. He says, but they were all good words. So I often think about this 2,000 words a day to like, what am I doing? Just crunching out stuff that I now got to go back and get rid of half of it.
Well, it depends on your writing style. I can get out 1,000 words, and most of it, like I'll keep most of it because I tend to underwrite. And so I'll write through. I tend to underwrite. Yeah. So underwrite. So I won't have enough detail. I'll get my story out, but I'll find in all those words I haven't got enough description or enough action or enough things like that. I tend to write more dialogue heavy, but I might not set the scene properly as to where they are or something like that. So I'll get the words out, but I'll have to go back and add more. Whereas a lot of writers, they get lots out and then they have to go back and delete stuff. Whereas I find I have to go back and add more.
So you go back. So one of your swing stories, let me call them your swing stories. You got to go back and say, what were the moves when they were dancing, or what was the tune, or what were they wearing? Because I'll
not think about that. I'll like, what did they say and how did they feel and what happened next, and it'll be big picture stuff. But all those little things like the details, of where they are or something like that. I might not have that in the first draft. I might need to go and add that. Probably because I'm not a very visual person. I have a fairly low working like mind's eye. You know how you can like visualize things inside your head?
Yeah.
I struggle with that. I can get like small flashes in black and white occasionally, like of very vague impressions of stuff, but I can't like imagine. My husband, he can play something out like a movie, and he can see it. He can imagine something and like design something he's going to build with wood, because he's a carpenter by trade as well. And he can see it inside his mind, and he can turn it around from every direction, and he knows exactly how it all works. And I can't bring up an image and hold it, which was awful when he was deployed, because I couldn't bring up my husband's face in my memory. I had to rely on actually looking at photographs because I couldn't bring up an image of him. So that probably affects the fact that I don't necessarily imagine what my characters look like. One of the questions I hate the most is when people say, who would play that character in a movie? Because I'm like, I don't know what they look like. I can't imagine the actors in the movie being like, I don't have that visual connection in my imagination with it.
So how do you do it? So how do you do it? So if you don't have that visual connection, and you've got this romance story with these two people, and in the swing dancing and all that stuff, is it how do you see the characters if you don't visualize them? How do you do it?
I talk it through my head, which is probably why I've got so much more dialogue. I'm probably more dialogue focused. Because like I talk to myself, or I'll talk through, and then they'll do this, and then they'll do this move. And I know what those things are, and I understand what those things are, but I don't necessarily have an image of this couple doing this stuff. I'll rely on, I don't know, imagination. Like I've got the imagination, but I don't, it's really hard to explain to somebody who doesn't have a brain that works the same way. But you can still imagine things. You can still create and do that sort of stuff. But I don't know. It's a different kind of understanding. It's impressions of things, not vivid images.
Okay. So just repeat that. Just say that again.
So it's more like I have an impression, like an idea. It's a concept. It's like an audio book. Like I can hear it more than I can see it. It's those sort of connections. So
are you more audio than visual when you do it right?
I think I must be. That's why my goal has been to have an audio book, not to have a paperback. I think I'm a lot more auditory focused than visual, which has taken me a long time to understand that my brain works different to my husband's, and now we don't fight as much about silly things. It's like, but I don't know what you're talking about because I can't see it. So it's been good to understand each other better.
So where is all this going to lead you with your next? Well, with your next endeavor, yeah. What actually is your next endeavor?
What's next? Probably finishing off the list of things that I've started and haven't quite finished yet. So I've still got to narrate some audiobooks. So I've got
how many audiobooks do you want to do?
I want all of my books in audio. So I've got most of them done so far. But I've got one novel that Taint What You Do. I've got to do that one.
Let's go back. How many audiobooks are you talking about?
Well, I've got 23 titles published so far as ebooks and as paperbacks. And then there's 7 I've still got to do as audio. But 6 of those are picture books, so they don't take very long. The finished audio is about 2 minutes on a picture book.
Okay.
That's the one I've done. So I've done the audio of this kitten. Yeah, I've done the audio of that one. But the rest of the series I haven't got to yet. So I've got a puppy, I've got a bird, I've got a bunny, and a horse.
Yeah, horse.
And a mouse. Okay. So I've got to do those ones. And I've also got to do the picture book I might have written about myself. It's the flower in her hair. I always have a flower in my hair. And so I had a bit of fun with that one.
I see.
And so that's actually a photograph of one of the flowers that I wear. I took photos of all my flowers. This one, where is it? It's really hard when I'm back from looking in the mirror.
Yeah,
That one's one of the ones in one of the pages as well. So I did all the artwork for these ones. So I'll get those up. And I find the audiobooks of those short ones, a lot of people don't necessarily want to buy a really short audiobook, but they often get borrowed in the library system. There's a couple, Cloud Library, Biblioteca is quite a popular one that libraries all over the world will use, and a lot of people will borrow them through there. So the patron, the reader, gets to read it for free, and the library just pays per borrow. So instead of paying $20 for an audiobook, they'll pay like $1 because somebody borrowed it, and I'll get 50 cents of that.
But do they plug the headphones on the children, and the children hear the book?
Yeah, they can. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I've borrowed a lot of audiobooks for my kids, they're especially good on road trips. You just hook it in. I would get them on my phone. I Bluetooth it to the speaker into the car stereo, and turn the speakers to the back and play it for the kids when they were younger. To keep them, because we did lots of drives across the country. My husband and I married when we were on the Gold Coast. Then we posted to Darwin. Then we posted to Wagga, and now we've posted down to Sale. So we've basically driven the whole East Coast. And I'm straight down the middle. So there's lots of car time. So good to find things to keep the kids busy.
And I guess you found audiobooks to listen rather than to watch some random video.
Yeah, well, it's nice just to break it up, and you can listen to it as a family, and then you've got something to talk about, or you can, it's safe content if you line up the audiobooks. There's a lot of children's audiobooks out there too, in the library system. I use BorrowBox from my library, which is an app that you can download ebooks and audiobooks and read them for free. Just log in with your library card if your library has that one. My ebooks are available for libraries to purchase through BorrowBox, but you'd probably have to request the library to get them because it's a curated system. The librarians pick which books they buy. Yeah, BorrowBox. They've got a lot of Australian audiobooks on there as well, because it's run by Belinda Audio, and they're an Australian audiobook publisher.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, lots.
So what else? You're going to pursue the audio?
What else? So I've got to finish the audiobooks. I'm going to Perth next month for the Romance Writers of Australia conference.
Yes. Okay.
So I'm looking forward to a little bit warmer weather than I've got at the moment, and catching up with a lot of friends from around Australia. I've got lots of friends through different Facebook groups that I'm looking forward to catching up with again, and people that I've seen at the conference before.
So so when's the conference in Perth?
It's in about a month. Yeah, about a month from today. It's on. Yeah, in Perth. So it's a great way to catch up. If you write romance, it's a great way to connect with other people.
Okay.
And they do lots of workshops the whole weekend. It's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and the whole thing's full of doing workshops to build on either your writing techniques or your marketing or whatever. There's a real range of things to learn about, and the cocktail party. And I'm also priorities. I'm also looking forward to catching up with a local writers group that we've started up. There's another author friend of mine in town, Lisa Ireland, and we've sort of looked at a few other authors that are just in this local Gippsland area, Wellingtonshire area, and we've caught up with a few people. It's just nice to connect with somebody local and have someone to chat books and writing with. So that's the thing. It's pardon?
Have you attended these conferences before?
Yes, I've been to RWA conference a couple of times before, and it's always lots of fun.
But is it valuable in your writing?
I found it's been really good. Yeah, there's lots of little things it'll make you stop and think about, depending on which topics you choose. You get to choose the topics that you're most interested in, and then you go to those workshops. So I think one of the ones I'm doing is about deep point of view. So it's just good to, it might be a concept that I already know, but it's nice to hear about it again, and it makes you stop and think and go, I know about that, but am I actually doing it? And can I do it better?
Yeah.
And just, it's good for all levels of writers, because there's always something you can do to improve.
Always,
and the parties are good, and it's a great way to catch up with friends, and it's networking. it's a great way to make contacts with other people, and then you can support each other and share each other's books, and then it works out better for everyone.
Okay, can I ask you, why haven't you written a story about your husband's activities as an MP, as a military policeman in the Air Force? I'm sure he's got some good stories.
Oh, he might have, but that's his story to tell. I've got some things I can tell. One of the other books I'm halfway through at the moment is a women's fiction book set around military wives. But my focus is on the people like me, on the military wives, on the people who are left behind, or the people who aren't usually in the limelight. Like there's plenty of books about men in the military and what they get up to, and I find they're best written by the men who are in the military, who have had the experiences. So I'm happy to leave that up to them. And I can touch on things in books if it feels relevant. But the other thing is, my husband's just discharged from the military. He's gone reserves, and because we didn't want to move anymore. We've decided we love it here in Stratford, and we want to put down roots and give our kids a chance to stay in one place and make friends.
But just come back here. So you're going to write a story about the wives in the middle of women who are married to men in the military. Is that what you're going to write about?
Yeah. Well, I'm halfway through it.
Really?
And so,
it's a fictional story, or
fictional story. Yep, fictional story. Yeah. So I started that one a couple of years ago. And then it sort of fell by the wayside when we moved to Sale, because we moved at the start of 2020, and then all of a sudden COVID hit and everything shut down, and I just was flat out with my kids, and my motivation to write to keep going with that story was difficult, because it was set around military wives who were connecting through going to the military wives choir, which I was part of as well, and basically had to go online, and I couldn't, you couldn't meet up in person anymore, and you couldn't sing together anymore. And I just found the whole thing hard to write about when I couldn't do it. And so I let that book fall off to the side, and that's when I turned to writing children's fiction, because I was there homeschooling with my kids during the day, doing remote learning, and helping them write stories for their writing assignments. And then so we'd brainstorm the idea together. And then I was like, well, I want to write that story. So then I'd sit down and I'd write the story, and they'd write the story, and then I'd bundle them up and publish them.
Okay.
So here's one that came out of lockdown.
What's it say?
It's called Chaotic Chores.
Okay.
Chaotic Chores. So just imagine a washing machine coming to life and causing a bit of chaos.
Okay.
And that was inspired by trying to homeschool the kids, and I had to pause for a minute, go and attend to the washing machine that had become unbalanced and was banging and clanging across the floor. It was like it was trying to run away. And so I had to just open it, rejiggle everything, and that came back and got us talking about it and got some ideas for a story. And that one's got me and the kids down the bottom as authors, Renee, Tom and Molly. So it's got my chapter book story at the front, and then the story that each of the kids wrote in the back.
So you actually have like your own anthologies. So you wrote one, and each of your children wrote
I wrote one. Each of the kids wrote one. This one was my daughter and I.
Okay.
And then this one's my favourite in audio. So that one came from Too Much Imagination.
That's a pretty wild character.
I think he's pretty fun. But this one was the writing prompt, was one of my son's writing prompts, and it was called In the Darkness. And then that was your inspiration. You had to write something from there. So we've come up with this story. And when we did the narration, I actually got both my kids and my husband to do the voices for the characters. So the dad's voice is my husband. The boy's voice is my son. The girl's voice is my daughter. And I do the mum and all the rest of the narration. So it's a quartet narration. And it's lots of fun to listen to.
Okay.
And I think the squirrel one, I think the kids and I have done that one. I think the Chaotic Chores, the kids and I have done that one as well, with 3 of us doing the voices for that one.
It's almost like an equivalent of an Australian Dr. Seuss collection, isn't it?
Just about.
Just about, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I've had lots of fun with it. So during the pandemic, the last 2 years, I pretty much turned to the children's fiction and the picture books because it was shorter. It was easier for me to actually finish something, and it was fun. It was a great way to engage with my kids and keep my writing alive that way.
You're all like stuck at home.
Yeah.
In lockdown, and then rather than go off and leave them.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd
all work together. I'd sit at the dining table. I'd have the laptop. They'd have their pencils and notebooks, and we could work together then. But now that things are starting to get back to normal, I'm starting to go, rightio, I need to tie up some things that I was halfway through and then get back into that novel.
Well, maybe you should do another book about creating these books with your children. I mean, nobody's ever written about that. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a very positive experience. About everybody sort of moaned a bit about COVID, about lockdown or whatever, but you've managed to make like a very positive experience out of it for the children. They'll probably have fond memories of this forever. About the time when we were locked down with mum, and we made all these books, and they'll be telling their grandchildren about this.
Yeah, they're super proud of themselves. They love to tell people that they're authors as well.
Wonderful, that's wonderful. But maybe you should write a book about this experience.
Definitely some memoir options in there. I haven't done memoir yet. Maybe that's another one I can work on.
And how old are these kids that are actually coming up with these stories?
Right now they are 11 and 13. So they've done little bits and pieces, over the last probably 3 or 4 years. So we did one book last year, one the year before that. When we were back in Wagga, we did the Chaotic Chores one back in Wagga, I think. It was a school holiday project. And I think the other one was more from a dream that my daughter had. She started talking about things, and then I tried to get her to write it down. I got about 3 sentences because she was 6. I couldn't get a lot of writing out of her. But it was more her talking about things that inspired that story. That was... this one, Best Friends for Now.
So how many books have you done?
This one is a similar theme to the novel that I'm writing, the women's fiction novel I'm writing. It's exploring the themes of how do you make friends when you know you're going to leave. So the little girl in this story, her dad's in the military and she's just moved into a new house and she knows she has to leave. Like it's not her forever home. She can't have best friends forever. So she's got to ends up making best friends for now with someone. So just knowing that you can still make friends.
In closing, how many books in all your genres have you actually published?
I've published 23 titles now.
Wow, okay, that's a lot.
So that's including the picture books, the beginner chapter books, some novelettes, and the non-fiction and the swing dance series, which has short stories and full-length novels in it. So and I've got some two flash fiction collections as well. So I've published them as 2 separate collections. They're also all the stories in those are also available for free through podcast, any of your podcast apps. If you look up fun-sized fiction, you'll find all the stories in there. I released them all as a podcast. I recorded them for the audiobook, which is published. But if you want to have a listen for free, you can flick your way through and pick and choose stories from there. Yeah, so anywhere you listen to your podcasts, they're on YouTube as well. I can't remember. I think it's probably just under my name, Renee Conoulty. If you look for Renee Conoulty on YouTube, you'll find them all in there. But yeah, fun-sized fiction, and they're all really short stories.
That's
5 minutes or less.
But in closing, it's been wonderful chatting to you.
Yes, I'm very chatty.
Oh, that's great. That's great. You just got to, I think all us writers tend to be chatty, and we just occasionally take the time to put it down on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'll bid you goodbye.
Thank you. It was lovely to have a chat.
And we'll chat again. Cheers, Bye.
Bye.